Good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth day of our program on supply chain management course. At the very beginning, I would like to apologize and regret because of this delayed start. There was a technical glitch in the studio which forced us not to start the program at the scheduled time. So, we would like to accommodate whatever time we have. We have to make use of whatever time we have, and we'll go straight to our topic on inventory management. Another very important topic. Just before we start, still a very quick recap on what we did last time. Apart from our completing the transportation and fleet management, we also discussed this very important topic of forecasting. We discussed how important forecasting is. We have discussed what dependent and independent forecasting is all about. What are the factors on which a company would forecast, the different various factors. We discussed the different forecasting approaches as for the relational approaches, the judgmental approaches, the time series model. In the time series model, we have discussed 4 models, and as I said, we want to restrict our discussions only to those topics which will be relevant and which we can accommodate in this short 24-hour course. So, in the time series model, we discussed cumulative mean, we discussed weighted average, moving averages, we discussed weighted moving averages, and we also discussed the ratios. We will straight away and exponential smoothing. Yeah, that was the fourth topic that I missed out. Exponential smoothing was the other model that we discussed in the time series model. We discussed the various challenges in forecasting, okay, how important it is and why is it relevant to all the supply chain partners. Okay, I hope by this time you would have seen that I have uploaded a lot of study materials. I have not uploaded any video as such. Now you will find there are different study materials that I have uploaded, few earlier and few currently. So, just try to study or try to download the ones which are relevant to you and the ones that has been covered so far in the last 3 days, today being the 4th day. Okay. So, we straight away go to our topic today, because we are going to discuss inventory management. It is a vast subject, it is a very important subject. It is very important to decide how strong, it decides how strong the supply chain of an organization would be. A well managed inventory management decides whether the company would ensure profit to the company, whether he would be able to ensure customer satisfaction. So, it is extremely important, and if you see, inventory management also has connections to warehouse management, it has connections to material handling process, it has connections to packaging, it has connections to forecasting, very closely related to forecasting. So, now let us go to the slide and discuss step by step what is inventory management. As you know, inventory by this time you all know, particularly students who are from MBA and other branches as well. It is basically stock. Now, we discussed, if you remember, there is one particular factor on which the entire supply chain process revolves around is customer demand, customer choice, okay, consumer behavior. Today the consumer behavior is extremely volatile, it is changing all the time. So, we said that it is the uncertainty which is compelling, it is the uncertainty of doing business which is compelling every organization to strengthen their supply chain, and there is a lot of competition, okay, and in order to meet the customer demand, inventory management plays a very vital role, extremely vital role of deciding how strong the supply chain of a particular company would be. Let us go to the slide. So, if you see what is inventory management, it is a supervision of non-capitalized assets and stock items, a component of supply chain management. Inventory management, the management by inventory management itself, we say it is the supervision of the flow of goods from the manufacturer to the warehouse and from these facilities to the point of sale. Let us come back to the board once. There are so many players involved in a supply chain. Okay, a particular company providing the raw material, then a company who is doing manufacturing, the company, then there is a distributor and there is a retailer as well. So, these are the various players who are involved in the entire supply chain process. So, who needs to do inventory management? All of them, because all of they are connected to each other. Okay? And that is the reason we said there is the reason why we are talking of supply chain. We would like to recollect once again why this chain is important, because this particular connectivity, this integration, this coordination is extremely important in order to ensure that the entire supply chain process has a very efficient inventory management. Let us go back to the slide. So, what are the inventory and its role? So, basically the function of inventory is a role. It is basically a stock. It is kept to meet the expected or unexpected demand, to manage the flow of materials. It is considered to be the portion of business assets. The turnover of inventory represents the primary sources of revenue generated by the company. It influences the production and the operational cost. It is basically held to take advantage of the economies of scale of the supply chain. If we use the entire capacity, we need to have stock, we need to create inventory. It is allow different stages to purchase product in lot sizes, use marketing and production to increase profitability, to get the maximum amount for business investment, balance supply and demand, improve efficiency and geographical specialization. So, these are the roles of an inventory. This is not inventory management, it is the role that inventory or the stock plays for a particular organization. When you get the study material, you will be able to study and you will be able to understand better. So, go to the next slide. What are the different types of inventory that is maintained by a company? It is either the merchandise, it can be the finished product, it could be the raw material, it could be the packing materials, it can be the MRO goods which are used for maintenance or upkeep of office premises or the plant. For instance, there may be equipment such as compressor pumps, valves, upkeep supplies like gaskets, lubricants, repair tools, computer, furniture, etc. It could be replacement parts, it could be pipeline. Now, but by pipeline what do we mean? By pipeline we mean shipment which are still in the process, which are in the pipeline, which are still moving from the supplier to the consumer. So, it is also considered to be an inventory, and that inventory, it is change the ownership from time to time. As long as it is not delivered to the customer, the ownership lies with the supplier. So, when a manufacturer has an inventory and then it sends the inventory to its distributor, whatever product it may be, unless and until this is received by the distributor, and the same happens with raw material. So, the ownership remains with the sender or the supplier. So, there are different types of inventory. When a product is completed, it is manufactured, it is the finished product. It could be the components, different types of components which are used to make the final product. It could be the raw materials. It can be also be the packaging materials, and as I said, sometimes we also ignore that there is an the MRO equipments play a very important part. The maintenance of inventory, for instance, there are factories which has inventory of uniforms, of safety equipments. Inventories are maintained for them as well. So, there are different classifications of inventory. Let us go back to the next slide. What is the function? We have said the types of inventory. What role does an inventory play? It is a working stock. It is used for the continuous operations of a plant or of a company. Anticipation, we may anticipate a drastic fall or hike or an increase in demand. It is a cyclic stock. Sometimes companies or retailers particularly, they keep enough inventory and stock of a particular product for the customers to create a demand with the customer. It is called a cyclic stock. It is a decoupling stock. In case I anticipate that there could be a shortage in future, then I could keep an inventory basically for that purpose, anticipating a stoppage in production. Tomorrow, if I anticipate that there could be a stoppage in production for whatever reasons it may be, I would try to create an inventory or stock of that particular product, which can be used when the production stops or the production slows down. That is called a decoupling. Then we have safety stocks. A safety stock, why a safety stock? Because the in transit, for instance, I am expecting my raw materials or some components. I am a manufacturer of automobile. Okay. Now, I need to have safety stocks because the lead time or the time of delivery from the supplier to the manufacturer may not always go as per the schedule. So, at that point of time, I may use the safety stock for whatever reasons it may be. Okay. So, I may require safety stock. Pipeline inventory is repeated over here, as I have said. It is the product that are in the company shipping chain and which has still not been delivered to the consumer or the customer. This is called a pipeline. So, these are the various functions of inventory functions. Let us go to the next slide. So, basically the next slide gives you a diagrammatic description of the role of inventory, and the most important is the one which is right at the top, supply and demand. There is a demand and the supply has to match that demand. How to match that demand? By creating enough optimum inventory. Inventory management does not mean too much of a stock or too less a stock. It is the balance that one has to create, basically to maintain that balance between the demand. So, it is to improve the forecasting. So, there is a forecasting, I need to generate as per the forecasted revenue or demand. I need a stock, reduce the material flow time, reduce waiting time, reduce buffer inventory, use the economies of scale. There are seasonal variability, cycle variability, safety inventory, seasonal. So, basically it gives a diagrammatic. Now, there is one thing very, very important over here, seasonal variability. If you remember, when we were discussing warehousing, we did discuss about stock, okay, which are required to be maintained because they are not available throughout the year, or certain stocks which are required throughout the year, but which are probably produced at certain point of time. So, for that inventory is required, stock is required. For instance, you call a type of grain, you can call a type of apparel, you can speak of a type of any product, a particular medicine, whatever. So, these are required in sufficient stock, so that in case of emergency, in case of a situation which cannot be produced at a particular month or a period of the year, the inventory stock may be used. Okay. Let us go to the next slide again. Role of cycle inventory. Let us come back to the board. Here I would discuss in advance something which is called an average inventory. Now, this is the quantity or inventory, and this is time. Let us take different periods time, it can be days or it can be months of a particular year. Now, a company would have a maximum inventory. He would order a lot, suppose he would order a lot of say 1200 units of a particular item. Now, he knows, assuming there are 12 months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If he knows that the consumption is uniform, that means every month his inventory is going to go down. he has a maximum inventory on period 1, and then when the period is over, his consumption, his inventory goes down and down and down and down, because what? Because there is consumption at every period, there is a consumption. So, his inventory level will go down. Now, with companies who maintains huge stock, huge amount of inventory, let me tell you, there is significant cost in maintaining inventory. So, it is not possible to calculate inventory cost for each and every period. So, what they do is that, what we will do is that, we will calculate the average inventory. I am sure most of the MBA and the management and the business students who are doing business, or even students from the commerce, would have definitely come across average inventory, but it is extremely important for all of us to understand this. So, what was his, just to simplify, what was the maximum inventory? His maximum inventory was 1200 units, and this 1200 units at the end of the period, it becomes 0. It becomes 0. So, what is the average inventory that this particular warehouse or this particular company or this particular plant is keeping? How do we take an average? We add the maximum and the minimum and we divide it by 2. We take an average. So, the average inventory is 600. Now, we are talking of uniform demand. That means, uniform consumption in every period. It may not happen that this way, does not matter. Still then, average inventory, the concept of average inventory becomes very, very important. So, the company, we can take 600 over here, the average inventory is over here. This is his average inventory. Now, we will definitely discuss in some other slide something which is called lead time. Since we are discussing average inventory, we might as well discuss lead time. Now, what is lead time? I repeat once again, there are many students all over the state. This particular program is going to different universities, different colleges in different districts of Andhra Pradesh. And somebody are from BCom commerce background, somebody from management background, somebody from technical background, some are degree students, somebody from first year or second year or third year. So, it does not matter, few of the topics may be very new to a few of the students, and for somebody it may be known or familiar. So, it does not matter. Now, what is a lead time? Anybody in the supply chain, that means every company requires a supply. The retailer needs a supply from the distributor, distributor needs a supply from the plant or the company. The company requires a supply from the raw material supplier. That raw material supplier probably need another supplier to him. So, everybody is expecting. Now, when you order a particular material, the supplier would require some time to deliver. From the date that you have ordered till such time that the order has actually been executed and delivered, that particular time is called lead time. So, every company has to be very careful. Come back to this particular example. See this company, over a period of time, he has 1200 units of whatever, it can be television sets, it can be washing machine, it can be pairs of jeans, it can be anything. It need not be 1200, it is just a hypothetical figure. So, over a period of time, his inventory goes down, 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 and ultimately it becomes 0. Should the company wait till its inventory becomes 0? What happens at this stage? He has no stock at all. So, what he has to do? He has to reorder. He has to reorder for replenishment. Replenishment means refilling. So, where does he reorder? He probably reorder at this point, and then the supplier would take this much of time to deliver, and then again the supplier delivers and the customer comes back to its desired inventory level of 1200, so that he is never out of stock. So, every company decides when to reorder depending upon his consumption, depending upon the maximum inventory he requires. This is a very simple example, it differs from company to company. So, this particular time, so he reorders at this point, we call it R or R, and he receives at X. So, between this is what is called lead time. So, it is very important for a customer to understand, or a company to understand, what his supplier's lead time is, okay, so that he can plan his inventory level accordingly. I have deliberately discussed this lead time and reorder point over here, because in the future slides also you may have reference to this particular. Since we have already lost about half an hour, we are going to have a shorter break rather. So, we will continue, we will not stop at 2:45, we will go a little and we will have a shorter break. Okay. So, and we have to go faster, because as I said, we have to accommodate the entire topic of inventory management in these 2 sessions itself, because we have a new topic tomorrow, which is purchase management. Okay. Let us go back to the slide. This is the next slide actually tells you what I have discussed just now. So, a company has maximum inventory of 1000 units, he ordered his demand is 100 units a day. So, his max average inventory is 500, that means over a period of time his inventory becomes 0. So, 1000 plus 100 divided by 2 becomes 500 is his average inventory that this particular company maintains. Categories. Who requires inventory? I have discussed just now. Everybody in the supply chain requires a stock, because everybody is a supplier to a particular customer. In the entire supply chain, the raw material is a supplier to the company who is doing assembly. The company whose assembly is a supplier to the one who is making the finished product. The company who is producing the finished product is a supplier to its distributor. The distributor is a supplier to the retailer, and the retailer is a ultimate supplier to the end customers. So, everybody needs a stock. It depends upon how much inventory or how much stock somebody requires. What does a manufacturer require? It requires raw materials, it requires finished goods, components, suppliers. Wholesalers or dealers or distributors, they buy in large quantities. So, the volume also differs from party to party or company to company. So, wholesaler basically they retain stock in bulk, because they offer quantity discounts. And the retailer, if you see, go to any retailer, he does not, his tendency is not to keep too much of inventory or too much of stock, because for him the stock has to constantly move through its system. You won't see a retailer maintaining too much of stock, because the demand may change very soon, and retailer has the ultimate customer to satisfy, the final consumer to sell to. So, these are the 3 categories of basically the manufacturer, the wholesaler or distributor, and the retailer, who basically needs to do inventory management, who needs stock. Next slide. Now, this is something very important. Now, there are different functional groups in a company, and we can just refer to 3 or 4 functional groups. There are many. For instance, let us talk of marketing, the marketing team. We have the finance team controlling the finance, we have production, or we would rather say the purchase or the procurement team, and the one who is doing the designing of the product. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are many functional groups, but these all functional groups, they have different inclination towards. Let us discuss just one, inclination towards inventory. That means, does the marketing team require too high an inventory or low inventory? What does logic say? Logic says The responsibility of the marketing team is to ensure faster and timely delivery of product to its customer. So, the marketing desires that there is never shortage of stock of any product. The product should never go out of stock. So, the marketing team has very high inclination, they want very high. Now, why I am saying so? Because inventory management is difficult. An inventory manager, a stocking manager or warehousing manager, he has a role to play. He has his internal customers to satisfy. The finance team does not require too high a stock, because he understands maintaining stock, maintaining a high inventory always has a cost. Financial team, financial department always has a responsibility or a low objective to maintain low cost. So, they will always want low inventory. Procurement, does procurement need high inventory or a low inventory? We have to understand what is the role of procurement. It is to purchase for its company and the objective, the primary objective of procurement team is to buy at the optimum price per unit. He wants to avail the best possible price, and in order to obtain the best possible price, he has to buy in bulk. It is only buying in bulk will give him better costs from the supplier. So, he does not mind having a very high inventory. Designing, for instance, now I have designed this particular pen. Okay. Earlier, there were not many varieties of pen, but today, if you remember, I was discussing in the previous session that the life cycle of a particular product is going down and down and down. Now, I will always be apprehensive. I will always have a doubt whether this particular design will go on for a long time or not. Any product, I am just for simplicity's sake, I am talking of this marker because it is in my hand. So, you talk of any product, talk of a camera or a cell phone or a washing machine or a TV or whatever. You think of a product, the life cycle of a so, or a particular brand of car, a particular model of a car. Don't you see models of car changing every 1 year, every 2 years? It is coming in different models. So, the designer would not like to have a large inventory of the same product, because tomorrow that product may become obsolete, will become obsolete. What has happened to BlackBerry mobile phones? Okay, they are still in use somewhere, but if you see any product and if you go back and see their model, lot of these brands or the models have become obsolete. So, if you maintain a high stock or an inventory of the product, tomorrow it will be a loss for you, customer will not buy, it will become obsolete. So, they will always have a low inclination. So, if you see there are other functional groups like the production team, they require very high team, because they are scared that tomorrow the production, there may be a problem in production, the production may slow down, the production may stop, the plant machineries may malfunction. So, they would always require high stock and high inventory to ensure that the company business process does not get affected. So, it is very interesting. Logistics manager has a very inventory managers, supply chain managers have a very responsible and a very critical role to play. Very quickly, so the metrics and what depends what determines whether there will be high inventory or low inventory. Production rate, lead time, if the lead time is correct, the inventory level is low. If the production rate is slow, then the inventory obviously will be slow or less. Average inventory investment, if the company is willing to invest on inventory, then a company may look for a high inventory level. Inventory turnover ratio, what is the cost of goods sold, the life cycle of a particular product, days of inventory, how much sales. That means the last one, the days of inventory, that means if I want to make sure that I should have higher inventory, so that my sale is taken care of, so that I can use that inventory for a sale for a longer period of time. So, I can have a high inventory. So, these are the different parameters or metrics which determine the level of inventory, whether it be high or low. Let us quickly go to the next slide. Now, very important topic, that is inventory cost. I am extremely sorry that we are going a little fast over here. Just pay a little attention. I am not going to discuss all the topics or all the slides. Wherever I am spending some time, you can be rest assured that that particular slide or whatever that is mentioned in that slide is important. So, inventory cost is important. What are the different inventory costs? Basically, there are three types of inventory costs. One is the material itself. There is a cost of the material. What material? For which I am keeping an inventory. Then I have inventory ordering cost. I am ordering a stock from my supplier. In order to order, in order to place an order, in order to put a tender, in order to build up a team, in order to, if I am paying for the inward transfer, excuse me, for inbound transport, all that becomes a part of the ordering cost. And then I have the inventory holding cost. To hold the inventory in the warehouse in the facility, and in a later few of the later slides we are going to explain what are the various inventory holding costs. We would like to pause here for a while, because we have to go through the schedule of this particular program. We can't afford to have a big break or a large break. So, we will come back after 10 minutes and we will discuss the other aspects of inventory management. Does not matter if we run short of time, I will spend some more time in some other sessions to discuss whatever that has been left out. Thank you very much. I will meet you in another 10 minutes time.